Take it away.
Please, no tough blow. The fact of the matter is that you got 4 weeks off. You go 2-2 at the very least over this 4-game stretch. You end up 6-3. He comes back, and most importantly, it gives Stefon Diggs an opportunity to acclimate himself even more to Stroud. Now, I would say the same thing you're saying, Kimberly, if he was out for an extended period of time.
At
but to
least
be
4
back,
weeks. We don't know. Will he come back?
Well, he told me 4 weeks. That's all I'm going by. If it's more than 4 weeks, I got you. But if you're going by 4 weeks, which is what it says on the screen, it says 4 games. I'm reading. It says 4 games. All right. If he's going for 4 games, you're back week 10 with 7 weeks to go. And by that time, because he's gone, you get more reps to Stefon Diggs, who, by the way, only has 1 less reception than a Nico Collins and thinks he's still a number one.
Why do you think Stefon is being productive?
Yeah.
Because Nico Collins is on the field too.
No, guys, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying it's an opportunity for us to find out, Stefon, how much more you got. That's all.
All right, Steve.
Okay, let's talk about this. Because obviously losing Nico Collins is a big deal. To downplay that is absurd. Do I think that this is going to ruin the Texans season and this is like, oh, no worries? Like, no. But it's obviously a loss, right? Like what are we talking about? That is CJ Stroud's number 1 target. And Nico has been balling out, right? Absolutely. But this is why you go out and get a Diggs. This is why you go out and beef up your team. But they're also still missing their run game now as well. So again, the injuries start to pile up. And when you're talking about a young second-year quarterback, a young offensive coordinator and play caller, yeah, these things are harder to overcome. Again, I'm going to be very clear. I am not saying that the Texans can't overcome this. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm really trying to argue is that the Texans deserve some grace and patience. If CJ Stroud was a 5-year veteran and he has Andy Reid as his head coach, then yeah, there's a little bit less grace. It's like, oh, come on, if we say you're great, if we say you're a top quarterback in the NFL, you should be able to find a way. You still have a couple great weapons offensively, and there you go. But it is hard when you take away the run game and your number 1 wide receiver. Like that's not easy to do. Like I said, and unless you are just a 5-year seasoned veteran and you have an experienced offensive coach in the room that really knows how to kind of pull the strings in this way, right? How to make some of these other lower level guys look better than they are, greater than the sum of their parts, which is what we see the great coaches consistently able to do, whether it be the Andy Reid, Sean McVays, Shanahan's, etc. I'm not sure Bobby Slovic is there just yet. Maybe one day, but he's very early on in his career. Same with CJ Stroud. So yeah, this is obviously, a blow. So to act like it's not is just absurd. Now, I think they had the schedule up for their next games. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. They play the Patriots. Should win that game. The Packers. That's going to be a really interesting game. The Packers have gotten off to a somewhat interesting start because of injuries and whatnot as well. Jordan Love, I anticipate, will kind of start to feel settled, especially by October 20th. So the Packers, that should probably be a pretty tough game, even if both teams were full strength, quite frankly, because I think these are both 2 really great teams. So it's going to be really interesting from my viewpoint for that game. But it's still winnable. It's definitely not like, they're going to lose that. And then the Colts. The Colts are also a question mark, honestly, because of who's playing, Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco, right? Which is it? And obviously the Texans have already faced the Colts. So, divisional games can always get a little crazy at times. And then the same thing with the Jets. It's like, now the Jets fired Robert Saleh. Are they just completely collapsing? Have they been re-inspired? Did they get Devontae Adams? What's going on? So the way I look at it is technically, and this is based off of limited knowledge because I don't know who's the quarterback for the Colts and what the heck's going on with the Jets. Did they go all in? Did they get Devontae? What's happening? But it's the way how I always try to say, pick and choose the schedule for wins and losses. I always just try to take the easiest wins and give away the difficult games, just to say what's the worst case scenario. And so technically the worst case scenario would be you win versus the Patriots, and then you lose the next 3 games, which would make you 5-4. Which again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to the Texans. I can't be any more clear than that. It's not what I'm saying is going to happen. I'm saying worst case scenario. And so worst case scenario, you're still in great shape. You're still, en route to winning the division, right? And making the playoffs and now getting everyone back and being fully healthy when it really matters most near the end of the season. So again, this is a frustrating loss, and the injuries are starting to slowly pile up. Hopefully you start to get some of these guys back, and it'll just kind of really change everything for the Texans. What this does is this, though, because he's like saying, oh, this is good, this gets Diggs more reps and an opportunity to be the number 1 receiver. Yes and no. Diggs needs to understand his role and understand his place, right? Like, this is one of those interesting things, because let's say Diggs really balls out and shows out these next few weeks, which is definitely possible, of course, because I don't think Diggs is only productive only because of Nico Collins. It definitely helps, of course, but I don't think that's not the only reason why. He's not Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown. So, but with this, I'd say that the only thing that it has the potential to do is Diggs starts feeling himself. He's loving all this attention. He's loving the yards. He's loving the touchdowns. Let's go. And then Nico comes back, and now Diggs gets downgraded a little bit, and that can kind of frustrate him, because he can be like, you see what I can do. You got to feed me the ball. Like, you can just kind of feed that train. But I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying that will happen or won't happen. It's just, it's technically a possibility. Anyone who's ever been upgraded with an injury and has got to ball and has got, their role increased, anytime it then kind of goes back down, it's that frustration of like, hey, we were looking great with me. We were winning. Like, what's going on? You see this with backup quarterbacks a lot of times. When a backup quarterback goes in, the team starts winning, and now the starter comes back in, and now they're kind of struggling again. There's that feeling of like, hey, man, why don't we put the backup quarterback in? Unless it's a superstar quarterback, you're just like, hey, we're better with so-and-so, right? Like, you can feel the restlessness. Again, I don't think it's going to be as extreme as that. It's just, again, obviously we all know that Diggs has a big personality, albeit though he's definitely been a great soldier for the Texans so far. But yeah, no, I do think the Texans will be fine, and I'm excited to see what CJ Stroud does in this type of situation. Like I said, though, I do think there's a lot to go against him at this point of his career, right? Like, he's literally only 5 games into his second season as an NFL quarterback. So it can be a lot to take away from a young player. But I'm curious to see how he individually plays and how the Texans are able to play as a team as a whole. How are they able to find out wins? And it's actually kind of perfect. It's really kind of given to them that they get the Patriots first, because that should help them find their footing. And then the Packers, again, I think that should be a tough game, but still a winnable game. Then you have the Colts, which again has the potential to be a wonky game. It was last time when they played. I think that was week 1, right? But that was a wild game, because it was just like, Anthony Richardson just unleashing like a 60-70 yard touchdown, but I think he was still like 50% completion percentage that game. And then again, you have the Jets, and it's like, who the heck knows really what the heck the Jets are doing. But you could make the argument that at the very least, so the Jets should have a good defense, because they have had a good defense. So it'll be interesting to see how the Texans go up against that offensively. But yeah, no, I don't think we have to gaslight Texans and act like this is no big deal that you're losing your number 1 wide receiver. But this is the benefit of getting all the weapons that you have, that the fact that the Texans build up this team in the offseason, and this is what makes you more resilient, right? This is what makes you more resilient as a team, and it's what championship teams do, right? They're able to endure all of the aches and the pains and the injuries throughout a season. And this is the Texans have essentially prepared for this. So that puts them, like I said, I think in a very good situation to continue to keep this afloat, continue to win. They might take an extra hit or two more than they would have normally done if everybody was fully healthy and ready to go. But I think this also helps CJ Stroud's development, Bobby Slowick's development. I think this is good. This is also prepares them for if anything happens late in the season going into the playoffs. Nico goes down, even if it's just for the half, right? He's in the concussion protocol in the playoffs, and he has to go back to the locker room to see, like, okay, is he coming back? Is he not, right? And now he's gone for 3, 4, 5 drives or whatever. It's like, okay, like they know what they're doing. They know how to handle it. Diggs knows he can step up. So again, I think at the end of the day, if you can continue to win or can continue to play at a high level, it actually ultimately will just make you more resilient. The more adversity a lot of times you face during the regular season, the more prepared you are in the playoffs. We can see teams that didn't face a lot of adversity in the regular season, the moment they start to face adversity in the playoffs, it's like they're shell shocked. And I would say that the Texans have already dealt with a fair amount of adversity, and so the fact that they're going to continue to overcome it, I think bodes well for them in the long term, and especially for CJ Stroud in his very early career. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Houston Texans? How much of an impact does losing Nico have on Houston's prospects? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.